Growing up in LA when I was like 13, I was real close with Diddy's younger son. I told y'all what I seen and what happened to me at Diddy house, and y'all finally finna see what the really been going on. His lawyer that he's done paid millions of dollars to fight his case has withdrawn from fighting the case. You wanna know why he's withdrawing from fighting the case?
A lawyer for Sean Diddy, Combs, has quit leading the rapper's legal team ahead of his trafficking trial. In New York federal court, Anthony Rico filed a motion to withdraw as one of Diddy's 6 defense lawyers yesterday. He didn't give an explanation, but wrote, "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel."
Like, I don't know if y'all saw, but Diddy's lawyer trying to quit. Okay, Diddy. If you're not familiar, Diddy is gonna be buried under a prison.
Hold on to your seats, folks, because the tides might finally be turning for Sean Diddy Combs. In a shocking twist, one of his top lawyers who once famously defended Osama bin Laden has officially called it quits. Yes, you heard that right. The same legal mastermind who stood by one of history's most notorious figures now wants nothing to do with Diddy. While the hip-hop mogul still has 5 other attorneys on his payroll, this departure is the last thing he needs right now, especially with the firestorm of allegations swirling around him.
Attorneys is trying to withdraw from the music artist trafficking case. Anthony Rico filed notice last week that he no longer wants to represent Combs, and he did not give a reason other than saying, quote, "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel." Rico has not shied away here from high-profile clients, including represented a terrorism case involving associates of Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda and New York City Councilman Larry Seabrook during his corruption trial. Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rose now joining us. What would you make here? What would you think an attorney would want to leave such a high-profile case?
We can jump to a lot of conclusions, right? You can say, wow, he's represented all these crazy folks in the past with checkered backgrounds. Why would he not want to continue to represent these folks? I tell all my clients this when they meet with me, that this type of engagement is a relationship. It's where if you're asking me to represent you, it's a meeting of the minds. Yes, it's contractual. Yes, I'll send you a retainer agreement. Yes, you'll exchange funds. But when we remove all of that, it's, do you really like me? Do I really like you? Do I feel comfortable?
Trust, yeah.
Do you trust me? Do you feel comfortable with me advocating on your behalf? Do I feel comfortable advocating on your behalf? And if we come to a meeting of the minds, which I'm assuming they did at some point in the beginning, then we'd come together, my team would send an agreement out, and then we'd work together. But somewhere during the course of the relationship, things happen, just like in a marriage. Sometimes folks drift apart, and sometimes things are let out during the course of the investigation, or I should say during the course of the representation, where you recognize that, hey, I'm maybe not comfortable going the next mile with this case as I thought I was. He said there are a couple of things, and you have to read between the lines. He said there's 2 things. It's effective assistance, right? Or you have the opposite of that, which is ineffective assistance of counsel. You don't want that as an attorney. Ineffective assistance of counsel means you didn't do your job. So he said, I can no longer go forward effectively assisting this person, meaning I can't do my job in court. Because I can't do my job, I need you to grant me the permission, the authority to walk away from this relationship. Basically, grant my divorce.
Is there some possible case here where it could be a conflict of interest?
That's normally something that you would do before the relationship. You'd say, hey, have I dated you in the past? Have I dated anyone that you know in the past? That conflict of interest is required. You want to have a conflict check. You want to ensure that you don't have anything that puts you or the client's best interest, I should say your client's best interest in the crosshairs. And so you run down that and make sure, hey, have I represented anyone that you've known in the past? Have I represented someone maybe that's going against you in this matter? And if I have a duty to say, you know what? I can't represent you going forward. Sometimes a conflict may arise that wasn't disclosed in the beginning. Then you're saying, you know what? You didn't tell me this in the beginning. And now you're bringing this up. I got to step away. There could have been a number of things that have happened. But if I'm going to gamble on this, I can guarantee it heads more on just the relationship deteriorating. That irreconcilable differences that you see with divorces is something that you see with client representation all the time.
And could it be a possibility where the client doesn't want to listen to the attorney?
That also happens as well. But again, that deteriorates the relationship. If I'm constantly saying, saying, this is the strategy, this is where I think we should go, and I have a client that's saying, you know what, I don't really agree with that, I want to go a different direction. It's always the client's decision. But I'm going to lay the roadmap. And if I recognize that this client is not listening to any of the advice that I'm giving, sometimes that's time for you to say, you know what, let's part ways before we get to trial, before we get down to this jury selection. Because once we get to this part, there's not a judge in America letting you step away from the case.
Certainly a high-profile case when you're talking about Diddy Combs right now. All right, Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes, thanks.
Hey, yo, you know who we haven't talked about in a while? Diddy. So let's take a trip on over to prison and see what's all going on. Now, for those of you that don't know, Diddy has a problem. He's going on trial in May for doing terrible things, all revolving around him forcing people to watch Netflix. If you don't know what that means, look in the comments. But see, Diddy's crimes are so bad and they span over so many decades that he had to hire a legal team of 6 different people that all specialize in different things. And of course, Diddy can do this because he has so much money. Now, one of his lawyers, Anthony Rico, just recently quit. Now, to be more specific, Anthony Rico, one of Diddy's lawyers, filed a motion to quit, saying, under no circumstances can I continue as counsel for Sean Combs, meaning I can't keep working with Diddy. But your lawyer can't technically just quit on you, so he says a few other things. He says, look, Diddy's gonna be fine. He got 5 other lawyers. For 1, boy got to start at 5. For 2, look, I talked to the head lawyer, this guy, Mark Agnifilo. I told him the dealio. He said, okay, away you go. Ooh, okay, but really though, Anthony Rico, again, the lawyer who left, said, I can't keep working with Diddy. He has other lawyers. He'll be fine. I talked to the head lawyers. He said, all good. And by the way, I can't tell y'all why I'm leaving because that would violate attorney-client privileges, meaning that he would have to say things about Diddy's case to explain why he's leaving. So he can't.
But here's the million-dollar question. What exactly made this high-powered attorney jump ship? Did something behind the scenes push him to say, enough is enough? The internet is buzzing with speculation, and while the truth remains unclear, 2 major narratives are currently dominating the discussion.
Can you walk us through exactly what went down?
Anthony Rico has been part of Diddy's defense team since September. So he appeared in court with Diddy when he was first arraigned and pled not guilty to the charges. And Anthony has been kind of this almost kind of public kind of support figure for Diddy as his lawyer. In court, he stands up and points out that Diddy's, children have traveled long distances to be there. He sits next to Diddy, during the hearing, they're talking, they're laughing. So they seem to have kind of a more personal relationship maybe than with, Diddy's other lead defense attorneys who are kind of the ones up in front of the judge. And this past week, he just suddenly files a motion saying that he's withdrawing from the case. And there's not too much detail given, but clearly there was a fork in the road about, something having to do with this case. And he says, like he heard that under no circumstances can he effectively serve as his defense counsel.
Now, some of the terms are a bit confusing. There's like lead counsel and then defense counsel. Sean, he's not his lead counsel. So is this really that big of a deal?
No, and those are all misnomers, lead counsel, so forth. It's just because they all do the equal amount of work. When they say lead counsel, what ends up happening is if you're in the middle of the court, you don't want 3 lawyers talking at the same time. So they basically said, you'll talk is all lead counsel means. So if there's an objection or something of that nature, that will be the person talking. So that really is a misnomer, lead counsel. Do I think it's that big of a deal? Yes and no. Legally, I don't think it's a big deal at all. But I always tell people lawyers get off of cases for 3 reasons. 1, Mr. Green has not made a gratuitous appearance. You haven't been paid. That ain't this situation. You can assure that. 2, what'll end up happening is if the client insists on lying. Like if a client says, I want to lie or something of that nature. And I don't think it's that situation because we're not even to the point where Diddy is going to take the stand and there's avenues if your client wants to lie and insist on you suborning perjury. 3, we just can't get along. And that is almost always what happens. I've said since day one, I think they're trying to case way too quick. They haven't asked for 1 continuance yet. There are terabytes of information. I cannot see that they could possibly be prepared by the time the May term comes. And it could be the possibility the lawyer just said, I don't want to do it anymore. I really think it means we're not seeing eye to eye, whether it's Diddy or other folks on the law team, we're not seeing eye to eye, and I can't go any further.
So he's definitely not said anything about Diddy's perspective. He said that there'll be no lapse in representation, as Sean Combs will be continue to be represented by 5 other attorneys of record. Okay, once again, without violating any aspect of the attorney-client privilege or otherwise providing any details whatsoever on the grounds of supporting the application, the government has been notified of the filing of the motion to withdraw as counsel. Okay, how do you think this looks to people with no legal background, no legal expertise?
I think people have taken it as bad. You know, when a top attorney quits your case in the language used, under no circumstance can I continue. I think people are just pointing at that and say, he can't defend him, you know, and making their own assumptions from there. There have been kind of reports circulating kind of to what Sean said, was that it seemed like there was a breakdown between Diddy's attorneys about going to trial in May, and that, you know, Mr. Rico wanted to kind of postpone it because there is so much information here. So that's kind of been the attitude or the shift out there. But a lot of people think this looks bad for Diddy. They think it's like almost an admission of guilt from some of the things that I've seen, which of course is not the case.
Yeah, the language that's used out there, you know how it's going to get picked up on. We know what the court of public opinion feels, and we know how information travels. Could you not have said something like, for personal reasons, or would that not fly with a judge?
That would not be anything dealing with anything whatsoever, because the court, if you write down, I want to be off for personal reasons, the court's going to ask what those personal reasons are. That ain't the scenario. I think the filing in and of itself was possibly wholly unnecessary because, as mentioned, 6 attorneys. Realistically, he probably wasn't going to have a big trial role because they couldn't have gotten along. He just didn't have to show up. We file these a lot of times because what ends up happening is we want to make sure one lawyer, one client, I'm asking to be removed. This guy needs a new lawyer. In Diddy's situation, he doesn't need a new lawyer. He's got 5 others. So I think it's kind of a shot realistically either at Diddy or somebody else on the legal team. I don't think it has anything to do with the underground facts either, though. I think this is all
One theory suggests the lawyer clashed with Diddy himself, possibly over strategy or even a deeper ethical dilemma. Another theory argues the departure had nothing to do with Diddy but stemmed from conflicts within the legal team. With 5 other attorneys involved, power struggles and chaos seem inevitable. If his defense is this unstable, what does it say about his chances?
Let me go. Now, generally, an attorney will only leave a client for only like a select few reasons. One of them, if a client can't pay. That's a big one. But, well, we know Diddy could pay. For those of you that don't know, he got a lot of money. So that's probably not the reason. Another one being the lawyer might have found out that their client's crimes were much, much worse than they expected. Like so bad that they just can't morally stick with the case and they gotta go. That might be the reason, because as far as we know, you and I, Diddy's crimes are terrible, but his lawyers know much more than what we know. They know how far Diddy might have went. So Anthony, Diddy's lawyer who left, might have seen something he didn't want to see and said, look, I can't even work with bro anymore. Now, lastly, the reason I'm leaning towards is maybe Anthony had problems with the legal team or Diddy himself. Maybe Anthony wanted to defend Diddy a certain way, the other lawyers didn't agree, or Anthony may have had problems with Diddy. Because see, the thing is, Diddy is notorious for being unreasonable. See, what you gotta understand is you and I live in a different reality than Diddy. I was trying to explain this in a past video when I told the story of Diddy blowing up Kid Cudi's car. Allegedly. Now, you don't gotta watch the video to understand that Diddy blew up a man's car. Because in Diddy's mind, he can do that. Now, here's where things start to get wicked. Wicked part being Diddy's mind. You need to really listen to what I'm saying here, because I can sit here and give you a million stories about times Diddy went out the handle or did something crazy, but you'll find that they all have 2 things in common. One, the shock of the things he's saying, like he be talking to people any type of way, and 2, the shock of what he's trying to get done. Okay, listen closely. In this particular video, for example, Diddy's telling the person on the phone that he wants a TV show time slot. He's not taking no for an answer. Diddy's saying, just do it, just do it. The person on the phone probably saying, bro, I can't just give you someone's time slot. Diddy's saying, give me that time slot. Person on the phone finally says yes. Diddy says, whatever I want, I get. Now I know what you're thinking. What? That's just business. Sure. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you. Listen. It's all the stuff Diddy's done to Cassie in front of the whole world. One of the times she runs away from him, she gets a call from one of his assistants saying, Diddy wants you back right now, or he's gonna come find you. She don't come back, so he thinks she's with Kid Cudi. Goes over to Kid Cudi's house, blows up Kid Cudi's car. Allegedly. Does all of this sound like someone in the same reality as you and I? So imagine you're Diddy's lawyer. Now, I'm not saying this is why Diddy's lawyer left, but listen, imagine you're Diddy's lawyer and reports come out, Diddy is intimidating witnesses. Reports actually came out saying Diddy's intimidating witnesses. You're Diddy's lawyer and you say, Diddy, why do you think you can get away with this? You can't do that. And Diddy tells you, you're my lawyer. Fix it. You say, Diddy, just don't do that. This is the real world. They want you in jail. Diddy says, look, just get me off. Poor choice of words when referring to Diddy, but all I'm saying is I can imagine it's a frustrating environment to work with Diddy, doing outlandish things and just expecting you to deal with them. Now again, Diddy's lawyer could have also left because he had problems with the other lawyers, or he just didn't want to work with Diddy anymore. But either way, Diddy's going to trial with 5 other lawyers, and their defense is Diddy did do all those things. There's video evidence, so it's hard to deny, but it was all consensual. Please don't give him life.
It actually turns out that there was a major power struggle inside Diddy's legal team. Rico and, the lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, they have been butting heads for months over how to handle the trafficking charges in court. While the lead attorney Agnifilo has been publicly denying the allegations, Rico had a different approach in mind, but he wasn't given the control needed to execute it. From what we know, Anthony Rico had 2 major concerns. The first one is the lead attorney's legal approach has been to outright deny the trafficking charges, claiming that Diddy's so-called freak-offs were consensual encounters between adults. Rico, on the other hand, had a different legal strategy in mind, but he wasn't able to push it forward. I don't know exactly what his strategy was going to be, but in the end, he's an experienced lawyer, so I'm sure he had an angle for how it was going to benefit Diddy's bottom line, right? And then they also disagreed on when to actually go to trial. So Anthony Rico strongly believed that they wouldn't be ready for the scheduled May 5th trial date and wanted to ask for more time, but his co-counsel refused to delay, right? And then on top of that, Rico wasn't even able to speak to Diddy directly, which is kind of weird because he's representing him, right? And then apparently they kept on blocking him from that access. And at that point, he decided that he couldn't properly defend Diddy. So, he walked away from the case for that reason. So now Diddy's team is down one high profile criminal defense attorney at a time when he needs all the legal firepower he can get. And when a lawyer with this much experience walks away from your case, that's never a good sign, okay? Now, there are some other rumors, if you will, that the reason why he walked away was because he couldn't deal with the crimes of Diddy. Did Diddy eat people? I've never heard of a lawyer turning that kind of high profile case down. What the hell did that man do? Now that tweet right there had over 300,000 likes on Twitter, so a lot of people are obviously paying attention to the story and they're obviously very confused, okay? Like, how the hell do you walk away from a case that's this high profile? Especially since lawyers are some of the biggest capitalists out there, okay? They want that money. Ain't you trying to get paid? I think this Diddy trial actually has the potential to be one of the biggest trials in entertainment history. And there's a couple reasons why I say that. First of all, this isn't just about one lawsuit or one charge. This is an entire criminal case with serious allegations that could send him away for life. We're talking about accusations of trafficking, violence, intimidation, and things that destroy powerful men when the evidence.
Meanwhile, adding to the confusion, one of Diddy's remaining lawyers has spoken out, claiming there are no incriminating tapes against him. Wait, so were all those rumors about the feds finding tapes during house raids just smoke and mirrors? If that's true, why did those stories spread so quickly?
I think that the public and the media have gotten nearly every fact wrong about what the prosecution's case is here. So I just want to take one issue with that. There's no minors, there's no celebrity tapes. The civil lawsuits here are not driving the allegations that we're defending against, but it is driving the vitriol against him in the media.
This kind of created a life of its own, that they had seized videos of the freak-offs, and it kind of spun into who's on those tapes. And Hollywood became unusually silent.
I think there's one huge reason, and that's Tony Busby. Right after the indictment, he came out with a press conference with a 1-800 number behind him, threatening lawsuits against our client without having filed any. And we saw exactly how it played out, and we saw exactly why Hollywood went quiet.
And what she's referring to, part of why Hollywood went quiet is we now know that Tony Busby sent demand letters to several celebrities, most notably Jay-Z, who stood up to that and is actually now suing Tony Busby for extortion. Right.
Because the person who was suing him dropped it because of all the inconsistencies in her case. Now, Penny also said that they are going to be looking to file other defamation lawsuits. And she made that really clear, that it wasn't just going to be a one-off with Jay-Z.
Well, hold on, because Jay-Z is suing him, but she's not representing Jay-Z. She's saying that Diddy is going to file defamation lawsuits against some of the people
who are making allegations out of court. Now, Tony Busby, by the way, you just mentioned something. When we did one of our earlier Downfall of Diddy documentaries, we had Tony Busby on. And I asked him specifically, is the game here to go to high-profile people like a celebrity and say either settle or we're going to file a lawsuit which effectively will ruin your life and your career? And he kind of said that's the drill in civil litigation. So he was open about that. She does not abide by that.
Yeah, look, I think this is what we're seeing here played out in a very public way is what happens not publicly every day in this country. Our system is set up for this, right? You have plaintiffs' lawyers who try to exploit every possible vulnerability of the defense, including by threatening to file lawsuits that may or may not be fully fleshed out. And if you force them to prove their case, they're going to say, you're going to be really embarrassed if this comes out, therefore you might as well just settle up. And then on the other hand, you have a defense lawyer who is putting her client's best foot forward here to try and not only in this case win the court of public opinion, but also to lay the seeds with the plaintiff's counsel that this is not going to be quite as easy as you think, and you better be prepared for war.
So I think in having this discussion, we've kind of done exactly what Tenny and I think Mark Agnifilo would say, is that we're melding the civil lawsuits, and that's what Tony Busby's about. Right. Tony Busby's the civil lawsuits. The conversation that you get into more on the podcast with her is also about the actual criminal matter. This is the federal indictment against Diddy, and that's what she and Mark Agnifilo are defending Diddy against the U.S. attorney for.
That's right. And there are so many allegations civilly with minors, with and a lot of other things.
People think that the U.S. attorney has that.
And they think that it's not. They're separate. There are 3 victims, alleged victims, in the federal case. Now, Cassie and 2 others.
Right. Now, I don't think we should downplay to make it seem like, oh, well, if that's all that he's facing. I mean,
in the criminal case.
Right. But I'm saying take away all the civil lawsuits. He's still facing a lot here against the government.
Oh, he is.
As far as these criminal charges.
He is.
And yes, you're right. It is only at this point 3 victims that the government has named, but it's not, those 3 victims are enough to send him away to prison for a long time.
Right.
If the government wins.
If the government wins. What we haven't heard is what is the defense that they will mount against the 3 victims? Are they going to argue it was consensual? Are they going to argue that it's racial? Are they going to argue?
Well, we know they're going to argue it's racial. I said that.
You're going to get in the consent issue too.
Yeah.
Are they going to argue that to call this racketeering when it's basically looking at what goes on in somebody's bedroom pushes the law so far that it's like a rubber band that breaks? Now, I'm not saying that's going to work or not work, but they're going to put up a fight. They are going to put up a fight.
Diddy's remaining lawyers are rallying, vowing to fight for him and insisting he'll be out soon. But is this real confidence or just a desperate show of strength as his defense unravels? The legal world thrives on controversy, and right now, it feels like we're watching an intricate game of smoke and mirrors.
Why is that not a fair outcome?
What he did here is on a magnitude of unlike anybody else you could imagine. A week after these public searches were televised. He gave us his passport. His children gave us his passport. He then paid off the mortgage entirely on his Miami home, $18 million. It's instructive that he's going to have a bail package ready so that if he was arrested, he would have something ready so that he could get out the next day and show the judge he's taking this very seriously, which he is, which is why 12 days ago, Chris, when we thought there's an indictment that may be coming, he flew to New York the very next day. And that's an extraordinary move for a defendant who's been under investigation that he's been aware of for at least 6 months. He has done everything somebody under investigation can do. I can't think of anything else that he could have done. He's fighting. He's fighting, he's innocent, and he's going to be able to show it.
Right here, sir, right here.
So we want to know, right? Who's going to be watching Jesse and Delilah? Everybody down front. Who's going to be watching the kids?
All right. So this was the first step. We have a bail appeal scheduled for tomorrow at 3:30 in front of Judge Carter, the district judge assigned to this case. I think that we made the points that we've been wanting to make. I think it came out. Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end. He's innocent. He came to New York to establish his innocence. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of the charges. There's nothing that the government said in their presentation today that changes anyone's mind about anything. He's been looking forward to this day. He's been looking forward to clearing his name, and he's going to clear his name. And we're going to stand by his side as he does. We believe in him wholeheartedly. He didn't do these things. This was a 10-year relationship. There's no coercion. There's no crime. There's basically just, someone who brought a civil case and now is finding themselves as a witness in a criminal case. And we're going to fight this case with everything we have, as is he. And eventually he's going to be shown to be innocent. And so tomorrow we fight again, and we'll fight every day until we don't have to fight anymore.
Where's he being detained?
Last night instead of today as planned.
I don't know. The question is, why did it happen last night instead of today? I don't know the answer to that question. I just want to make one point very clear. We have no power. All we can do is show good faith. He got on a plane and he came here. And if he stayed here for one day before the case started, or for 1 year before the case started, he was going to stay as long as he needed to stay. It ends up being only 12 days. That's fine. That's what the government wanted to do. The government didn't want him to turn himself in. He came here to turn himself in. Why doesn't the government want him to turn himself in? Because then they can't ask for detention. So they go and they arrest him. They arrest a guy who came to New York to turn himself in. But we're going to make all these points again tomorrow, and we'll make it as much as we can until we get him out. So that's all I have.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Wait, what was the question? We're appealing.
No bail.
No bail.
We're appealing it.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're appealing the decision to hold him without bail. Tomorrow at 3:30. 3:30, same place.
Will he be here?
Bail appeal. Bail appeal tomorrow at 3:30, same court, different judge. He's doing fine. He's a fighter. He's a fighter, and he's going to fight this. All right, I'm going to go. Thanks. I don't get into that stuff.
Okay. How are the twins? Are they doing okay?
You said the police were working with you on this case. You wanted to get the report. We talked about this. You said things were going smoothly, but now it's not. So when did that change?
Last night, actually, I got an email from them, the county, not the city police, that then said I needed a subpoena to get the records, which I think we all know about Freedom of Information Act, which requires a public information be given freely. That's why it's a federal law. So I've never experienced in any situation where I have been told I needed a subpoena to get public information. I was floored. I was shocked, and it was apparent to me that some type of cover-up is going on. The Orinda police are in violation of federal law, and I will make sure if they want to be the next facing a lawsuit, they can be the next.
What do you think? Is this a sign that Diddy might be in the clear, or is there more to the story? Why did his lawyer really quit? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more updates. Until next time, fam, keep it real.